There we go. There we go. All right. Hi, everybody. Get close.
So Leonard,
Yes.
welcome back to Rebellion.
Thank you,
welcome
sir.
back to the literary stage.
Thank you, sir.
And welcome back to the UK, which I take it is, oh, I got it, is your second home as the Dickies.
Yeah, very much so. We're very grateful to England for embracing us the way that they have these past 50 years. That's what it's coming up on. We will be officially 50 years old next September. So we figured we'd come over and sell some 50th anniversary shirts in case we didn't make it back. And the book, of course.
And the book, of course. So we're here to talk about this wonderful piece of work, and it is a beautiful book, and just where to start. So let's just throw it out there. The Beatles, Bugs Bunny, and Catholicism.
Okay. I want to say, before I answer that question, I have good news and bad news. Of course, the good news is the book exists. And the bad news is, I thought, I was going to have like a table with books on it. I'd be signing them, and that's what I said. This is the only copy, I think, for thousands of miles. But it is available on Amazon now and through Cleopatra Records if you want to pre-order it. Now, the question was the Beatles, Catholicism, and Bugs Bunny. It would start with Bugs Bunny. Cartoons were a very big influence on me. I was a sickly child. This is all covered in the book as far as the, my childhood influences. I particularly respected Bugs Bunny and his predecessor, Screwy Squirrel. I like that stuff much more than the Disney stuff because the Disney stuff, even as a small child, seemed very patronizing to me. It's very cutesy, and as where Screwy Squirrel was like, as a matter of fact, I think the first Screwy Squirrel cartoon is like a Disney mock-up, right? With these little woodland creatures with the big eyes, right? Innocent eyes, and then here comes this drunken squirrel, with a cigar hanging out of his mouth and a 5 o'clock shadow, cracking wise. And even as a little kid, I could see the irony in it and the humor in it. I also was very influenced, and of course you find this in early Dickies performances, and we still do a lot of it today. Influenced by live TV. I'm going to be 70 years old next month. So I grew up with, pre-cable, obviously. Like many of you, TV for me was, there was a show called Big Babysitter. The marketing people were starting to see its attributes as a stand-in for your parents, which is what it was for me. So you just park the kid in front of the TV set and go to work, So there was a lot of live kid show stuff that I grew up with, puppet shows, that sort of thing. Beanie and Cecil, Shrimpenstein, Winchell Mahoney time. Now to the Beatles. First heard them when I was in my family's car. We were driving down the street. I Want to Hold Your Hand came on the radio. My brothers insisted that my father turn it up, and it just changed my life. I mean, the Beatles, for me, at age 5, was like an atom bomb. It just, when I heard I Want to Hold Your Hand on the radio, everything that was alluring about pop culture, let alone pop music, was crystallized in that moment. I'm quoting the book, which is really disgusting, but in any case, so yeah, they became, I was a huge Beatles fan for the next 10 years, all the way through their career. Catholicism. My dad, my family, originally, my grandfather came from Birmingham, England, and I think over in the States, it's the Episcopalian Church is the American answer to Church of England. So me and my brothers were going to, Episcopalian Bible study, and then my father got a job cooking for the Our Lady Queen of Angels Seminary out in San Fernando Valley. We moved next door to a convent. I got to peep on a nun while she was getting dressed. That was exciting. I was 6 years old. Maybe the man I am today. And so I was about, my gosh, I think around 9 or 10 when I was baptized a Catholic. I wasn't a baby, I was like, you know, a small child. And I just jumped into it with 100%. I wanted to be a priest. I loved the uniforms that they had all of us wear. Puberty cured my desire to be a priest like that. And of course I was a pious little kid. There's a chapter in the book called God and I Are Like This, and it kind of describes some of that. So there's the three.
Thank you. And how long had you been thinking about writing your book?
Longer than it should have taken. But it really started, you know, of course, the computer age. I was writing little bloggy sort of things for Facebook. And my ex and I were a couple of middle-aged swingers, believe it or not, and we were on a site called Lifestyle Lounge. And I was on the site as a single male. Now, for those out there who aren't familiar with the wonderful world of swinging, a single male is the lowest thing on earth in swingerland. If you can't bring something to the table other than your penis, what good are you, you know? So it was perfect for me because I wanted to, you know, be a troll and stir things up. So my ex, who was on as a single female, who consequently is the highest prize thing in swingerland. They call them unicorns, in case you didn't know, because they're so elusive and batshit and hard to come by. Anyway, so I started writing as my screen name was Brad Pitt. And I started writing these little blogs for the swinger site, and they were pretty entertaining. And my ex told me, you know, Leonard, you really can write. And so she really pushed me into it. And then when Facebook came along, I started writing little stories and blogs. There's a couple stories, chapters in the book that originally did air, if you will, on Facebook. And then, I don't know, after a few years, it was like she kept telling me, you know, you should, you know, put out a book. And I was all for it, but I didn't want to be self-published. I just thought that's for losers, you know. It's like self-published, you know, I wrote a book, you know. When we got signed to Cleopatra Records, who are going to release our final album, which we're still in the process of recording, I said to them, when they were recording us, I said, hey, do you guys know anything about books, publishing books? And they said, well, as a matter of fact, Leonard, we just got into that. And they had published a book by Todd Rundgren and one by Bauhaus and I forget her name, the lead singer of Missing Persons. Anybody? Who? Thank you. So I sent them a little prospectus, you know, a couple of stories. And they gave me a minuscule budget, and that was fine by me. And voila, I finished the book.
And obviously, but this is, nothing is left unturned, shall we say. You deal with some very personal issues that a lot of people airbrush out of their book. Was it quite a cathartic experience? I know that's a thing that everybody says about books, but
yeah.
Did you find a cathartic experience when you were going through, revisiting these times?
Oddly enough, no, just because, I mean, this might go back to my Catholic upbringing, but I've always been confessing my sins to people, and one of my human failings, I think, that I have is I want to be liked. I desperately want to be liked, and when I fuck up or I do something that's just really not proper, I just beat myself to death about it in order to get whoever I have wronged to like me again, right? So as far as catharsis goes, no, but I didn't want it to be another punk rock book. Now I haven't read many rock biographies. Of course, I read the Beatles biography when it was first published. I forget the author's name, Jeffrey Hunter or something like that. They were still together as a band when that book came out. I read The Lives of John Lennon by Al Goldman. But boy, every time I've ever opened up a new wave book, a Sex Pistols book, not that I'm bagging on them, but you know, a punk rock book in general, my eyes glaze over because it's always name checking. It's just, I shot, No-Dos with Sid Vicious in 1947, and, it's just a list of a litany of name checks. And I didn't want the book to be that. I wanted the book to reflect not only who I was personally, but who the band, what the band was about. I wanted to kind of dispel the notion that punk rock is this monolithic thing that, it all started with MC5 and Iggy and the Stooges, and that's bullshit. Half the punk rockers I knew were listening to Yes before they started a punk rock band. So this is Southern California punk rockers. And of course, I'm babbling here, but we were an immediate answer to what was happening in punk rock at the time. We were definitely a late 70s first generation, second generation punk rock band. In other words, we were influenced by all the pop that we grew up listening to, and immediately influenced by the Ramones, the Damned, the Sex Pistols, and the Buzzcocks. And I didn't really have much of a taste for hardcore, if you will.
No.
Quote from Stan Lee, my partner, he says, all that stuff from the 80s on sucks balls. He's articulate like that. But, yeah, okay.
And you speak very openly, especially about your teenage years, and there was obviously mental health issues and substance use. So,
Yeah.
which do you think came first, and how does Leonard Graves Phillips deal with life in 2026?
Well, the drugs came first. I was a stoner kid, getting back to the Beatles. I remember reading an article, I think it was in Life magazine. It was an interview with Paul McCartney, who had admitted to taking LSD and had urged all world leaders to take it. I was fascinated with the psychedelic aspect of what was happening in pop music at the time. So I had to take that drug first, and oddly enough, that was the first drug I ever took. But yeah, I was just a stoner kid, and I don't know how it affected my mental breakdown, but in 1976, well, it might have been a combination of drug abuse and philosophy books, because I was a philosophy major in junior college, and I was reading Plato at the time, and the idealists, and I went cuckoo, as the short version of it. It was that was 1976, basically a year before joining the Dickies. I had that breakdown. And if it wasn't for the Dickies, if it wasn't for punk rock, really, I'd probably still be in my bedroom reading Plato. No, I don't know. I'd be, it wouldn't be good, let's put it that way. It got me out of my room, it got me laid, it gave me a life. So that's a good thing.
And can you tell us about the audition, your first pre-Dickies Imbeciles audition?
Okay, this again ties into my nervous breakdown. I went crazy, as it were, in early January of '76, and I started having a bit of a relapse in the summer of '77. And I was still, at the time, I was a keyboardist, by the way, and I was trying to start a prog rock band. I was working on prog rock ideas with some high school buddies. One of them who became Chuck Wagon, who was in the Dickies. And I got him in later on. But I started relapsing as far as my mental health is concerned. I thought people were skateboarding in my backyard at 3 o'clock in the morning. And that they were laughing. They were making jokes about me while they were doing this, which of course rarely happens to anybody. So my friend Steve Hofstetter, and there's a chapter on him called The Six Dickie. He started a band that some of you might be familiar with called The Quick in the mid '70s. A very dear friend of mine. We're housemates now, as a matter of fact. And he got on the phone with me and said that he knew this guy who I had met previously under different circumstances, named Stan, who was starting a punk rock band, and that he thought I would make a perfect frontman for it, because he kind of was familiar with the Leonard show, as it were. So I said, oh, I can't do that, and he assured me that I would have sex and that I would get out of my room. That was the main reason I did what I did, so I could get laid and get out of my room. Because because I'd only had like maybe three girlfriends before that time. So I went to the audition, and they had a few songs already penned and ready to go, right? And what I did was I had a turtleneck a turtleneck shirt, and I cut it diagonally like this, kind of like I called it the Aladdin Sane cut, right? Or the body of the shirt went this way, right? So one of the arms was gone and the other arm was there. And then I put a glove on the one hand, suck on that, Michael Jackson. And I had a canister of an old racist Bugs Bunny cartoon called All This and Rabbit Stew. And I showed up at the audition, and while the guys were running through the song, I had a bottle of Fantastic. It's a cleaning fluid, right? A little spray nozzle. And I sprayed that on my chest, and I took the label from All This and Rabbit Stew, and I put that on my chest. And then I walked over to Stan Lee's amp, and I unplugged it and wrapped the cord around his neck and said, "You're not gonna hear another note out of this guy until somebody gives me $10. And that was the audition. They said, "Get this fucking guy out of here. He's out of his mind." And on the way home, I was saying to the guy that gave me a ride, their first keyboardist, I said, "So how'd I do?" He's like, "I think you burned him, Leonard. I think you burned him." And sure enough, Steve told me, "You gotta sing. You can't just show up and do some like performance art type nonsense." So Steve had to get on the phone with Stan Lee for like 2 hours and just use all of his persuasive skills to give me a second shot. So for the second shot, I came in, I learned a few punk rock songs. The band already knew how to play, I forget if it was God Save the Queen or Anarchy. I think it was Anarchy in the UK. And I came in and nailed that. And as soon as they heard me sing it, they thought, okay, you can sing. Follows from there.
Fantastic. And when you came to Britain, and we'll touch on the single, spitting, gobbing, and you dedicate a chapter to this very British form of phlegmy punk adoration.
Yes.
What did you make of it when you first turned up?
I had only known, it wasn't really known in the States. We were familiar with the anarchy scene, if you will, and the British punk rock scene, of course. Our manager was an Englishman. We were signed out of the English end of A&M Records. So, needless to say, he broke us over here. You know, we started. He had us just booked in little pubs and stuff because he wanted us to get a feel of, of England, as it were. So it wasn't, I think, until we got here that I became familiar with what gobbing was, and it's just a horrible, horrible, despicable human, what would you call it, phenomenon, right? But apparently it was a sign of respect. If they spit loogies at you, it means they like you. So we did a few shows. I remember the first show we did was at some little place in London, and we died the death of our lives. I was a nervous wreck, and we bombed. But we were doing better after that, but we played Birmingham, of all places, a room called Barbarella's, which I don't know if it exists anymore, but it couldn't possibly, but I know it's famous from back in the day. And we started doing our set, about a third of the way into the set, these globules of snot started flying at me, And I thought, wow, they like me, they really like me. And that's, once the Banana Splits became a hit, it was just out of control. I mean, it would just rain snot on you. Just horrible. I don't know if people can relate to this. Some of you were probably the spitters at the time, right? But I mean, I remember singing, standing in front of the microphone, and I could see a loogie like a whirligig flying at me, and it would hit the corner of my mouth. And I'd turn around, I'd see Stan, and Stan he's trying to strum his guitar, and his pick is literally plucking through a gelatinous glob of snot, We'd get off stage, and my jacket from the night before was crusty. It was like chainmail, You could literally break it, Billy Clubb, he lucked out because he wore a raincoat on stage. So all he had to do was just hose it off, and he was good to go after that. But thank the gods that AIDS, I think, finally ended that curious English trait. And the Ramones, to their credit, I remember they wouldn't play with it. I think they said, "Fuck this," and they'd leave the stage. I said, "We are not playing unless you stop doing this," which was pretty good. I remember we saw the Clash at was it the Roundhouse? Not the Roundhouse. Oh, I forget the name of the place.
Music Machine.
Thank you. Very good. Music Machine. It's after the second album came out. And it was just raining on them. You could just see, I was watching them from the balcony. It was just this spittle, just raining on them. It was incredible. But yeah, we got to experience that, and I'm certainly glad it's over with.
And the single success of the Banana Split songs, how did you come to record that, and what were your thoughts on its success?
The thoughts on its success are, it's the bane of my existence. At the time, I think it was my idea. I can't really be sure about that, but I know a few other of our well-known covers were my idea, but I don't know about the splits. In any case, it was an afterthought. The first Incredible Shrinking album was a series of singles. And then we released that album, and then we were like, well, what are we going to do now? And we decided, we've been doing the Banana Splits live. Let's record that. And sure enough, it blew up over here. It was interesting because I don't think the Banana Splits was a popular show over here in the 60s, was it?
The 70s, I think it was Saturday morning.
Yeah.
Saturday morning,
Yeah.
as I remember, Saturday morning. Yeah.
Yeah. Because a lot of people, there's a lot of youngsters who thought we wrote Paranoid too, because they never, first time they ever heard Paranoid was the Dickies, which I love that. But it was great to be in the top 10 and have all that go on.
And did it change your audience that would then come to see you?
Well, yes, our audience was teeny punks, definitely. I think the average Dickies fan at that time would probably be a 14 or 15-year-old boy, something like that. Just little boys, And you got the feeling that their big brothers and sisters had the Sex Pistols and the Clash, and they had us. They had something that they could call their own. So yeah, our fan base was very, very young, and it's so hilarious because now here I am. I'm going to be 70 next month. Half of you are going to be 70 next month, and I don't have to feel like a kiddie performer anymore. I can play for grandparents and stuff, so that's good.
And how did there's so many wonderful stories, but the marketing of that song went to a different level. And there's a piece where you end up actually having to sign Bananas, and it sort of bemused you a little bit, I think.
Oh yeah, well that's the famous. I know this slideshow thing was going on before we came out, and there's some photos of our famous HMV record store appearance in '79, where we caused a little riot in Newcastle at this record store, and A&M, in their genius for marketing, showed up with bushels of bananas for us to sign. Sign a banana? What, are you kidding me? But we did, and we sat there and we'd sign anything. We'd sign the bananas, and then we played. I think it was either City Hall or Mayfair. Thank you, Mayfair that night. And A&M once again brought bushels of bananas, and I'm like, what do you want us to do with these? And the A&M fellow said, whatever you want. What, are you having me on? What are you talking about, right? So we weren't going to do anything with them, and then sure enough, when we went on stage, bananas just started flying. It was just, getting pelted by a banana hurts. It looks like a benign piece of fruit, but it's actually a dangerous weapon. And by the end of the show, it was just the stage, it was just nothing but mushed banana all over the stage. The place just reeked of banana afterwards. So, and I remember the single that followed that was another cover. We did Nights in White Satin, which was strange because it was a much more mature sound for us. Just everything about it was kind of in opposition to Banana Splits.
100%.
and it wasn't as big a hit as Banana Splits, but I'll never forget the Moody Blues re-released their version, well, of course they wrote it, of Nights in White Satin, and it went top 20, based on the strength of our release. And someone asked Justin Hayward, they said, so what do you think of the Dickies version? And the motherfucker said, well, it's not the original now, is it? Fuck him. I mean, yeah, he wrote it, but I mean, ours is a rework. It's not a cover, you know what I mean? So, I'm teasing, I never met the man.
So, final banana related question.
Okay.
Would you say that single was a blessing or a curse for the Dickies?
A blessing. I mean, you know, I'm getting to the age now where I can look at it as a blessing. There was a time when I was very cynical and I looked at it as a curse because we never really topped it in terms of, you know, radio play or what have you, you know. But definitely a blessing because it introduced us to a lot of people, particularly in the UK. It was a big hit in the UK, and I can sit here as an old man and feel very grateful for the respect. I hate to say it, but it's the truth. You know, the respect that I get over here. So yeah, it was all in all, it was a good thing.
So you said earlier we can speak about anything. So
yeah.
I'm going to quote just a little line from the book, which is about the 90s. So you write, I had gone from classy cocaine sniffing in Hollywood to visiting shooting galleries in Pacoima. I'll never forget watching a hooker inject herself in the neck while blowing into her thumb to get her veins up. I thought, Jesus, I'll never get that low. A week later, I was doing the same thing. How did you get to that point, do you think, in the 90s?
Well, I think I got to it the way anybody gets to that point, if you will, in terms of deleterious behavior or addiction. You know, addiction is a progressive disease, as they say, and I ascribe to that theory. Yeah, I mean, it started. It started in '77. I picked up my first drug habit here in England, as a matter of fact, in London. But I had tried the drug out at home. But yeah, by the time the '90s rolled around, I was so immersed in self-destructive behavior that you don't really see it coming, you know what I mean? You know you're in it, and you know it's hell, and you know it's horrible, but you're still going to do it. You know what I mean? It calls the shots. You know, you don't. I was into speedballs then, which is a mixture of heroin and cocaine. Now, of course, I'm paying for it now. I've been sober, by the way, for I don't know, 25 years. I've lost count. Well over 20 years, and they still can't get blood out of me when I go to the doctor, when they have to do blood work, because all my veins have receded. They're like, no more. So it was a pain in the ass to get blood from me, but that's what happens.
And then on the flip side, we've got the date, February the 2nd, 2003.
Correct.
Which is when you said you started to live again.
Yes.
So what was the catalyst for the change that you made?
Well, I had had people telling me to go to rehab for decades, but there's an old 12-step expression that goes, you're not done until you're done. And it's very true. I mean, there's an outside chance that had I gone to rehab in my 30s or late 20s, it would have taken, but I highly doubt it. So it wasn't until my mid-40s, 47, something like that, that I went to rehab. And the first trip to rehab, I got about 9 months out of it, and then I relapsed on some of my mother's Vicodin. I had some emotional instability. I'm having a bad day. And popped a couple pills, and boom, I was off and running again. A junkie friend of mine said, you're going to be gone for another 2 years. I said, you're crazy. He was right. So I went to the Musicians Union. And a man named Buddy Arnold, who was a old junkie jazz bow sax player, who was nice enough to send me back to rehab in 2003, and that took. You know, I was completely morally, spiritually, financially, you name it, bankrupt. I mean, I was done. So the expression is true. You're not done until you're done.
And it's been over 25 years, so congratulations on that.
Thank you, sir.
And can I ask you the importance of Stan Lee in the Leonard Phillips story?
Well, yeah. For those of you who bothered to read the book, Stan is the foil for a few humorous anecdotes in the book. And I told myself, you know, I can't just pee all over him in my book, you know, that's, even if it's funny, you know, I can't do that. So, and the truth is, he's very, very important to me, you know, and a very dear friend and acquaintance. So I wrote a chapter called There Could Never Be Another Stan Lee, which, interestingly enough, is the title, I think, of a punk rock song that a Scottish punk band, and I'm sorry, I cannot remember their name, but they self-produced this record. It was an homage to Stan Lee, and they quote him in the song. It's really cute. Yeah, I wrote a chapter about him and about how he's really the dilithium crystal that powers the Dickies juggernaut. He has an innocence about him. Well, see, that's what when people ask me to describe the Dickies, I mean, one of the things that makes the Dickies unique to a degree is it was a collection of very diverse individuals, and that's very true with Stan and I. The intellectual difference between us may be vast, but he's wiser than me. He's always been much wiser than me. He'll tell people things like, "You don't want his answers," which is, it's so freaking true. Yeah, I never would have thought when I was 20 years old that, you know, he and I would have our lives enmeshed as long as they have been, but that's how it ended up.
I know we have spoken a lot about addiction and the grimy side of life, but it is quite a life-affirming book as well, riddled with humour throughout. So I'm going to have to ask you this. There is one very short chapter that says, "Not in the Mile High Club." Explain, please.
Well, that chapter is more of a what would you call it? An exercise in writing style than content. But it's basically it's just a short paragraph, but it's about how Stan Lee got a blowjob on an airplane from a penthouse model that was sitting next to him, who had never met him before, and she was clearly blind. I mean, nymphomaniac. I mean, drunk. I mean, and she took him back into a restroom, and so he became an official member of the Mile High Club. So the way the chapter is written is, it's all done with subliminals, you know. I'll say, I'm in a band, you probably never heard of us, and Stan met this girl, slut, who, blah, 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 you know, that kind of thing. And then I finally end it by saying, I jerked off on a train once, does that count? That's the Mile High Club chapter. And it's terrible that I had to talk about it.
And you played in China.
Yes.
Is that somewhere you'd like to go back to?
Yes.
And is there anywhere that you're still desperate to play?
That's a good question. I would like to see more of Southeast Asia, to be honest with you. Don't want to go near the Middle East for obvious reasons, but yeah, I would like to see, you know, Thailand and Indonesia, places like that. But it was a real feather in my cap to play communist China. We did, I think, three or four shows there, and it was just very surreal, very dystopian, and very cool, very, very cool. The chapter on it is close to my heart because the first show in China, which was Hangzhou, was the city we played. We played this big danceteria, and the kids in the audience, there were a few of them who were actually mouthing the lyrics to our songs and were reacting to our songs in a way that only a fan could react. And I thought to myself, in the chapter, there's this she's 20 something, maybe late 20s, girl who I'm watching doing this. She's singing along with every song. And at the end of the night when we're leaving the stage, I blew her a kiss and she did, this, a little heart sign, right? And I thought to myself, man, she more likely than not had our record when it was very, very hard to come by in China, Maybe her parents had bootleg cassettes, that she listened to as a teenager. But it was amazing to me that, again, someone from Southern California, born in 1956, now finds himself in communist China, of all places, having this moment with this young Chinese fan, who knew all the words to our songs, even if she didn't know what they meant, which is probably a good thing.
And did you have to explain the props at customs or anything like that?
I did hear. The first time we came here, our manager, being the professional that he was, didn't get us work permits. So we were just gonna come over and say we were tourists, right? So the band came over without me. I stayed behind in New York for about a week or so visiting family. And then I came over by myself. I had maybe $200 in cash on me. And I have to tell customs I'm gonna be here for a month as a tourist, right? And I had my girlfriend, who ended up being a go-go, Charlotte Cavi, as a matter of fact. She was already here with the band. And she showed up with a couple $1,000 to prove to customs that I had money to support myself while I was here. But they're going through my bags, and I had my props. I carried my props with me. I'll never forget the customs guy opens up the bag and he says, "What's this?" And he pulls out a monkey mask. And I said, "It's a monkey mask." "And what's this?" "It's a plastic club." And once he reaches for the blow-up doll, and he says, "Okay, I've seen it." So I closed the bag. I didn't know how to answer him. All I could do was simply say, "It's what you're looking at," So he obviously drew some salacious conclusions from it. But yeah.
And you said you were writing at the moment. So any idea when we might hear a new Dickies album?
Boy, I've owed Cleopatra this album for 5 freaking years now. I can't believe it. When we signed the contract, it was going to come out like in 6 months or something like that. But I promise you, as I'm sitting here, it will be out next year. And I mean it. And, thank you. And there's talk, what with being the 50th anniversary of punk rock and all that. Let's see, what is it? It's 26, right? 2026. So is that the official birthday of punk rock?
50 years.
That's hilarious. But in any case, there was rumors going around that this might be our last trip over here, and who knows? I mean, Stan said to me when we were in Germany, we were in Hamburg, right? And it was rough over there. And Stan says to me, "I'm too rich to be going through this kind of pain." I said, "I'm too poor to be going through this kind of pain." I feel you, Stan. So when the record comes out, we will have to tour it, and we've already told ourselves we will only come to England. The drives are easy, the audiences are great. It's where we belong, So yeah, look for it next year. And all of it's on the table. Half of it is tracked.
Yeah.
It definitely exists. It's what you know that.
And is there a title?
There is.
Is it Swingerland?
No. Should I give you a scoop?
Please.
Toodaloo.
Okay, so we're almost at the end, but I just wanted to ask you, we just mentioned the 50th anniversary. Back in 1977, did you ever envisage that you would still be here in 2026 now?
No.
Playing, creating, and performing?
Not in the slightest. Not in the slightest. I'll never forget, as a matter of fact, when we got signed to A&M back in 78, drummer friend of ours, he was one of the guys in the Quick. He said to Stan, he says, So how's it feel knowing that you're going to be one of these guys on TV in 20 years saying, do you remember the days of punk rock? How about this golden punk rock hit by, you know? He thought he was being funny, when he was. But yeah, I mean, if someone had told me when I was 21 that I'd still be doing this at 70, I would have laughed. Joke's on me, right? So yeah, it's a trip.
Okay.
Definitely.
So we're going to do a very, very quick fire rounds, okay?
All right.
So Nights in White Satin or Paranoid?
Paranoid.
Writing a book or recording an album?
Writing a book.
Stage or studio?
Studio.
CD or vinyl?
No, who cares?
Vinyl.
Seriously. I mean, CD now, because it's more, you know, I don't even have a turntable anymore. So
Buzzcocks or the Damned?
Ooh, that's a tough one. It's got to be the Buzzcocks. I just think they're I love the Damned, but boy, Pete Shelley was such a great songwriter.
VHS or DVD?
DVD. You can store it easier.
And finally, Coco the dog or Stan?
Coco.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are literally out of time, but 9:15 tonight on the Empress, the Dickies. Ladies and gentlemen, would you give a big round of applause?